It is insane to think that the last time we got a good rush with cops in a Need for Speed game was in 2019 when Heat dropped. Those cops were a new type of ruthless. They actually had me fearing for my life when I stepped outside the garage past curfew. Those cops made me think I was wanted on 20 different RICO charges with a dash of terrorism and an attempted unaliving charge in there as well. You could leave the garage and everything would be fine. The night sky was peaceful, you could see the stars, you had traffic flowing through the streets, everything would be going smoothly. And then you would make the mistake of starting a race at night. It would go from no heat level to 5 Corvettes on both sides of your car and a Rhino charging straight at you. You used to be fighting for your life while trying to compete with your friends to see who could survive the longest and have the most rep. Who could be the first to 1 million rep? Who could collect the most ultimate and ultimate plus parts in a night? Those used to be the days, or rather the nights. That was peak Need for Speed risk versus reward, and how we went from that near perfect blueprint of what the community wants to experience in a police chase to a watered down version is nothing short of criminal. The main problem that these cops in Unbound seem to have is that they are not hard at all. Not even a little bit, and I feel like people are getting the words challenging and annoying confused when discussing this topic. The cops you try to escape from in both the story mode and the multiplayer are annoying. They are not difficult. They don't increase with difficulty as the heat levels increase. There are just more of them that spawn in. Cops that you go against in Heat 1 act the exact same as Heat 2, 3, 4, and 5. They don't increase the damage done to you. They don't increase their overall speed. Nothing changes, and the fact that it is so stagnated is what really upsets a lot of players. This wouldn't be such a blatant problem if the cops started off difficult and you had to actually try to not get busted, but they don't do that either. You either must be blind, missing fingers, or genuinely not paying attention in even the slightest bit in order to get busted in Unbound. It is good that new variants of police do spawn in when the heat levels increase, as that gives us more variety, but the fact of the matter is, many people as well as myself just feel that there is a problem with how hard the cops were in this recent game. I encourage you all to pay attention next time when you spawn into a free roam lobby and the cops are after you. See what the cops actually do when nearing your position and it will shock you. It seems like your car has a force field around it. The cops will literally move out of your way as you either come up to their location, or if you move from side to side, they will start doing exaggerated movements, creating a path for you like Moses in the Red Sea. Before we get into the meat and potatoes regarding the heat system, let's talk about the car list for what the police should have in their arsenal for the next game. I think that what Unbound did was great with the car variety depending on the heat levels and how all the cops had their own specialty. I really applaud them for the undercover cops as well, because those guys are just as fast as the Corvettes, hit decently hard, and you can't even tell where they are half the time. But in the new game, Heat 1 should of course be the easiest and not really hold too much power. That's the entry level. My choices are the 2023 Dodge Charger Scat Pack and the 2023 Mustang Mach 1. Threatening, but escapable for sure. For Heat 2, I think that we should get, and this may be a bit controversial, but I think the 2021 Tesla Performance Model 3 with 500 horsepower would be good as an undercover variant. It's great power and acceleration alongside it not really bringing a bunch of attention, and it's usually a part of everyday traffic. For its counterpart that would not be undercover, I suggest the 2021 Mercedes-AMG C63S. V8 engine, of course, not this inline 6 and bi-turbo V6 that they're doing now. No, I'm talking the V8 engine, making more than 500 horsepower. Heat 3 is where we really start to bring things up a notch regarding performance, and I think that having the BMW Alpina is more than enough. We want something that can be very fast, but not something too fast, because that is what the higher heats are for. Heat 3 is more of like a middle ground. It has 600 horsepower, so nothing super crazy, but it has enough power to separate it from the heats below. Another great addition that could be with the BMW is the Audi R8, with the V10, not the V8, or the RS7. Both have around 600 horsepower to be right up there with the BMW. For Heat 4, it can bring out some of the entry-level supercars like the Aston Martin Superleggera as the introduction car with its 715 horsepower, and the McLaren 720S that has around 710 horsepower. I was thinking about putting the Porsche GT2 in this category, but I don't really see that as a police car, especially one that would be involved in chasing down a racer. I see it more so what the racer is driving to get away from the cops, if I'm going to be honest. For Heat 5, it will of course add the Rhino SWAT vehicle back. That was a fan favorite, and I don't understand why they took that out. but this is the point where it would need to be able to compete with the best of the best that a player could be driving. Yeah, the AI will probably rubber band, but at least do it in cars that would logically be up there with the car that the player is driving. A Camaro should not be doing 245 on a straight with a Regera. So for Heat 5, we are bringing in the Hennessy Venom, the Jesco, and the Lamborghini Revolto. All of these cars are peak performance, and when brought out would stay with the player realistically. During these heats, I think also adding helicopters that do something would be a nice change as well. Yeah, it would be cool to see a chopper hovering above you, but it is a whole different feeling when you know at any moment it could actually drop pursuit tech to alter your entire run. But now let's get into the actual heats. So I thought about it a little bit, and I proposed that we have the 5 original heat levels in the next game. That's fine. I personally think that that system is fine, and we really don't need more than at least those for the regular cop chases. I also asked you guys what your thoughts on how many heats we need in the next game, and with almost 80 votes, it seems like you guys are also in agreement with my thought process. But the difference is I think we do need something to really encourage players to get back into the swing of things and put respect on the cops' names again. Back then in Heat, when you told your boys that you were going outside to do some night races, you had people genuinely concerned for your safety, and if you would even make it back to the garage. If you were in a car lower than 400 plus, then it would have been a guaranteed death sentence for you. That's what we got to get back to. And with the addition of 2 special heats, I think we can do that. My personal idea is that we have the normal amount, 1 through 5 heats, but if you continue to be chased for an extended amount of time in Heat 5, then instead of it just continuing on that same path over and over again until you either get busted or escape, you go into a new mode where the cops get exponentially harder, faster, and more varieties are present. What is a common issue that I stated earlier that turns players off to continuing a police chase? Nothing happens past Heat 5, and the cops never get harder. On top of this, there is no real incentive to continue a police chase once you reach the end. You get nothing of value, and it's really a time waster. But past Heat 5, that is where it could really turn the difficulty up. I'm talking that in Heat 6, every single police car automatically receives a damage increase of around 25% on top of what the damage they do already. This means that trucks and bigger cars will still be doing more damage than everyone else. However, those are not the only cars you need to worry about anymore. This damage boost will also include every single police vehicle in the game. Now the Corvettes, which are already fast, can do even more damage to really challenge your defense and decision making skills. The Heat 1 Chargers will now finally give the player a real challenge instead of being fodder that players can use to knock out to get a free boost. Instead of getting wrecked in 4 or 5 strong hits, now it only takes 3 to get you to 1 health. Tracking of the player should also be way better in Heat 6, and the strategies that the AI police use to try and get the illegal street racers should be more enhanced. Instead of just roadblocks that you can just go in the middle of or sides of, they can have spike strips on each side, forcing you to either turn around or figure out a way to get around them. These roadblocks would also be in strategic choke points, not just in the middle of a huge empty highway. They would block off turns, junctions, and even entrances to gas stations if they fall in the path of the roadblock. After a period of time has passed being in Heat 6, then they will automatically go into Heat 7, which is the last heat level. Cops will receive another 5% to their damage, raising it to 30%, on top of a new 10% speed boost that affects all police cars, just like the damage increase. Also, all cops will receive a damage reduction against the player's car and other objects in the world. That way they aren't killing themselves as much, and the player will start to feel the true pressure of an overwhelming force. Strategic plays to stop the player's car are more frequent, and the cops are ruthless. This heat is 100% geared to be unfair for the player, as it should feel that way anyway. But think about it in a way like how Lockdown is unfair for the player. The cops aren't going to be cheating, but it will truly show the actual situation a racer is in. There are dozens of cops who have the ability to lay traps, block off roads, and call ahead for backup. Getting away should never be easy, especially in a higher heat level like this. Heat 7 won't be impossible to escape from, but I would want the difficulty to be so high that it is strongly advised to seek a hideout as soon as possible. If the cops do have pursuit tech like in Hot Pursuit, then they will use that as more frequently as well. To be honest, I'm still deciding if it should be an option for players to be able to turn it on or off, but for right now, I think it would be an automatic switch once you have been running from the cops in Heat 5 for around 10 in-game minutes. However, with the toggle feature, players would be able to actively participate in long police chases with the AI that is just difficult enough to be enjoyed, but not overly difficult where they are no longer having fun. This would also benefit newer players who are just trying to get a feel for things and don't want to be thrown into Heat 6 or 7 or something crazy at just level 10. Now for the bad stuff. If you do get caught, wrecked, busted, or whatever, you will lose your car for 24 in-game hours if it happens in Heat 6 and 48 hours for Heat 7, just like in Lockdown. On top of this, unlike in other games where you just lose your rep and money you gain during the pursuit, you will actually be required to pay fines if you get busted on top of what you already will be losing, and those fines will be expensive. The point of the mode is a high risk, high reward to really give players that feeling. This may seem harsh and not really worth it, but the reward you could get from surviving these modes would be amazing. If I was in charge of something like this anyway, I'm talking more than double money and more than double XP for every minute you spend running from the cops in Heat 6 and 7. Remember that these high heats are not designed for long engagement pursuits, so trying to survive for as long as possible isn't really an option. These are just rough ideas, but the bottom line is that the reward should 100% fit the amount of time and effort players are putting in this game to survive those high difficulty escapes. I'm even thinking that a very exclusive car could be obtained if a player survives the full 10 minutes in Heat 7. But anyway, let me know how you guys like this idea. I didn't want the video to be super long, so I didn't go into as much detail as I could. But if you have any questions, let me know in the comments and I can go into greater detail on those answers. If you enjoyed, make sure to go ahead and drop a like and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video.